Hi there, welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra, and today I'm going to show you short clips of my top 10 farmhouse videos. DIYs, hauls, all sorts of great things. I'll have links to all of these videos down below in the description box. I'd like to thank all of my subscribers for your support. I really appreciate it. So let's get started with the countdown. So I was lucky enough to find this one at the Goodwill for $7.99. So I'm going to give the tray front, back, bottom sides 2 coats of the gray paint, and then I'll move on to the next step. And I'm just going to continue doing this dry brushing until I get the look that I want. So what I'm going to do now is use my Craft Smart paint pen and put some lettering on it. I was able to recreate these for under $8. For the side pieces, I started playing around with all the bits and pieces that I had because I didn't want to glue anything on until I was 100% sure of the pattern and how it would fit. Now that I have both frames done, it's time to give them the look of weathered driftwood. Now I'm going to use my Rust-Oleum aged gray chalk paint, and I'm not going to wait for the first coat of the cream paint to dry because I want to be able to blend some of the gray into that cream color. The first thing I'm going to do is give the bottom of the tray 2 coats of Rust-Oleum white chalk paint. I'm painting the outside of the frame with Rust-Oleum Serenity Blue. I'm choosing this one for this particular stencil, and it was just a little bit too big, so I'm just going to trim off the top a little bit, center it on my tray, and get to painting. Get ready for the reveal. Here it comes. 3, 2, 1. Isn't the reveal the best part? I'm going to just use some hot glue and wrap it around the top part of the handle. Check out this cute little tea cart that I picked up at the thrift store for only $14.99. Now I'm using Rust-Oleum Country Gray chalk paint, and I'm going to give it 2 coats. After sanding, you want to make sure that you get all of the dust off. So what I did was just take a very slightly damp paper towel and just get all of the dust off. You can also just use a cotton rag. Now that the prep is done, I can start painting. I'm just using my dollar store paintbrush, and I'm going to be giving the top and the drop down sides 2 coats. The last piece that I have to work on is the bottom tray. So I'm just taking a small paintbrush and using the country gray color to just paint the top of the trim. Then I'm going to use the charcoal and I'm going to paint the bottom of this shelf, and I'm going to actually just go up the sides of the trim as well. It just gives it more of a modern look. A while ago, it was $4.99. I still had the sticker on the back of it. I got this greenery on a garland. It's asparagus fern, and I picked it up at my Dollarama here in Canada, and it was, I think, $2.50, and I've used tons of it already, and I still have lots of it left over, so I just thought I would add this in a circular pattern all the way around. The next thing I did was take some lavender sprigs that I had and included them on the wreath as well, just to give it a little extra pop of color. The first thing I did was take a thin piece of plywood that we had hanging around and cut it to the size of the frame. Then I used white at the bottom and 3 different shades of gray to create this buffalo plaid textured look. I painted the black part with my aged gray chalk paint first, and then I took it outside to give it a coat of the hammered metal spray paint. I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum chalked chiffon cream paint for the apron of the table and for all 4 legs. Now that I'm done the second coat, I'm going to let that completely dry, and then I'm going to flip the table over and start working on the top. And I'm using the fine grit side. I think it's 125 grit, and I'm just roughing up the shine on the top of the table. I decided to use the Minwax gel stain in the color walnut. I'm using plastic gloves because I am a total mess maker when it comes to painting. What I've done now is dipped the rag into the stain, and then I'm just wiping it on. And then it also says to wipe it off, but what happened with me is I ended up going over the stain a couple of times. So I basically wiped it on and then wiped it off. Sanding is an important step before you put on the clear coat. You want to make sure also that you use a light touch and you go in the direction of the wood grain. If you go over this varathane too often, you get streaks and bubbles. I did realize at the end that I was putting it on a little too thick, but it was really hard to not put it on thick because of the texture of it. And line it up on the top edge of the board and press it down firmly. Now take another piece of painter's tape that you'll use as the spacer. Lay down the spacer tape flush against the first tape, but don't stick it down very firmly. Then take another piece of tape, line it up right against the spacer tape, and press this one down firmly. Then remove the spacer tape. This process will be repeated until you get down to the bottom of the board. Paint the white stripes with the lightest color of gray until your board looks like this. Wait until the gray is completely dry, then remove the painter's tape. Add the painter's tape in the same fashion as we did the horizontal stripes to create the pattern for vertical stripes. Make sure that when you're using your brush, you don't press too hard against the paint. You don't want it to bleed through, so use a light touch. You don't have to wait for the last layer of chalk paint to dry. You can go ahead and get ready for the fun part, which is peeling off all the tape to reveal the pattern below. For my project, I picked up a little console table and a matching mirror a while back. It's been in my garage. The two coats of white paint are now dry, so I'm going to go ahead and use the charcoal color of Rust-Oleum chalk paint and paint the bottom part. I only needed one coat of the gray, and I'm just making sure that I smooth all of the paint out with some really long brush strokes. You can see that I paid $6.99 for it. The last step for the table and the gray portion of the mirror is to give it a sealer. And I thought this would be the perfect addition to this little table. It could be... Here's a view of the items that you'll need for this DIY. The reason I'm suggesting to do this is because the greenery that I'm using doesn't have a lot of thickness, and you might be able to see a little bit of the styrofoam ball through. So now I have 5 sticks that are all the same length, and I did have to trim a couple of them. I did end up using 6 altogether. I'm going to be using hot glue to apply the greenery to the styrofoam. So at this point I've got about half of the ball covered, and you do. So this was $4.99, a little bit more pricey, but you know what? It's really in, again, fantastic shape. This next find is very heavy. It was $4.99. It is a humongous rolling pin, and I just love it. I thought he was just adorable. And of course, he's definitely not going to stay wood and stay these colors because he's not a farmhouse chicken right now. And it has these cool studs on it. These handles are really neat. You can see they're kind of turned over, really nice and sturdy. Nothing wrong with it, nothing broken. It's $2.99. So this will definitely get a farmhouse touch to it. Thanks so much for watching. In the description box, you'll find links to all of the full tutorials. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and don't forget to click that bell to get notified when I upload new content.
Stay tuned to my channel for more DIYs, farmhouse decor, and more.